SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. In fact, the Savage just
No, that was his belly.
that was his belly. I don't know. Savage was 100% in the shot. So if right now, if we're in your ear holes and you're like, man, these goofballs can't start a normal episode to save their life.
That's true.
You're right.
Understand that the Savage
Keeps photo bombing,
just
dropping,
just
whatever
belly
it was.
bombed or butt bombed the camera after he set it up. He was so friendly to get Jeffrey a water because Jeffrey was not prepared. Scott and I have
Always.
waters.
Yes,
He was doing production stuff, right?
I blame Jeff.
And totally Jeff's fault. But Savage had no haste. He was just like,
Yeah,
because
he's
he
moving like a savage.
he was moving like he does, man. He
Yes.
just with purpose, and he just was walking right through the camera. So
Yeah.
so we go live, and the Savage is just all you see in the camera.
Yes.
So
Yep.
if you're on Facebook watching, you're welcome.
And Chip already this morning says good morning. So good morning, Chip.
Good morning, Chip.
I was doing my thing, and I was getting ready to tell you, our listeners and our viewers, who the heck we are. My name is Neil with SFJ4x4.com, Simpson Family Jeeps of the beautiful Conneaut, Ohio, and I am joined with our decorated producer and vintage expert as well.
Are you gonna go,
Silence.
Jeff?
You guys don't know who the heck you are.
I was waiting for Scott to go because I'm still trying to get our comments to work.
But
Jeff's
you always
working
go
his-
first.
Jeff's working his butt off over there trying to get
he's
our
Jeff, the Italian stallion, our producer.
Hello.
well done.
Since he's busy over there.
Well done.
And I am Scott Brown, the mad scientist / Doc Brown / vintage guy,
/ Great Scott.
hot rod guy. I have so many titles. At
You
this
do
point.
have so many titles. I am, and I'm just constantly so very proud of you. And if this is probably not your first time listening to us,
We need to
or
come up with
viewing
a
us.
we need to come up with a fancy title for Scott that covers all of it, kind of like we did for you with the CBO title.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. CBO. If you're not aware of external affairs, please make sure that if you ever use that term referencing me, it's external affairs. Internally, we have the best darn team in the automotive industry, hands down, period, without question. External affairs, chief babysitting officer of external affairs.
Yes.
I was getting ready to gush over Scott. Just some people brought him up over the weekend and whatnot, and it's valuable. And I was saying that if this is your first time listening to us, even if it's not, it's so valuable to know that Scott and I started our friendship almost 20 years ago at this point, and a little shy of 20 years, I suppose, but
Getting
realistically, yeah, getting close. And the idea that you would become the decorated automotive industry's expert that you are
You didn't think
is
that weirdo you met at the car show was going to do that, huh?
well, I mean, I believed in the weirdo. I believed in the weirdo from the moment we met, and it's always valuable to know in our story.
It
I
was
had heard
love at
about the
first
weirdo.
sight.
It was love at first sight.
I think it's when I first talked them through the steering column. That's when it happened. But
Oh, that's when it clicked for me, and I knew that you had something special going on. You are 100% right. 100% right. And so it's so incredible the journey that we're on. But then even Jeffrey and his production as he finally got us squared away. I told somebody recently with the live stream we did last week, which was awesome, from Mark from Wrangler Fix. And so if you didn't get to see that one or listen to
Yeah,
it, we
go
really
back and
encourage
watch
you.
that.
Yeah, go back and listen to it and watch it. Really great individual who's doing big things in the Jeep Chrysler computer market. But I had recently told somebody I couldn't have done what Jeffrey is doing. We had nothing shy of 11,000 technical difficulties during that podcast. and live stream,
And you couldn't tell.
and you couldn't tell.
Yes.
People did not know. Jeffrey was over here like
the
a
only
stone
thing
cold
left
killer.
Is it, if the computer would have burst into flame, which I would have completely expected. the way
Totally
everything
been
went.
yes.
I mean, we would have just took the computer outside and went, like, yeah, that was it.
Well, I would have thrown it into a Jeep. I mean, that's just what I do.
That's true too.
But
Not your Jeep. Your,
Not
your
my-
Jeeps are safe.
no, you're fine, folks.
He thrown it into his Jeep because
Yes.
that's what he does.
There's a couple.
Self-sacrifice.
Yeah, I was just, right. That's right. You know, and that's what I was telling a couple people. I mean, if you go back, you listen and watch it, it's seamless, right? And I am so appreciative for that. With that said, that means we will not have a particular podcast coming up in the next couple of weeks, and we do want you to be aware of that because we'll be taking some time off to kind of reset. Jeffrey's got some medical stuff he'll be addressing, and we'll be vacationing.
And Neil and I just know our limitations.
That's
so
exactly right.
that's-
After
that's
I
where we're
watched
at.
Jeffrey work his butt off last
Yeah.
week, I'm like,
nope.
I remember that.
You don't want to
the
go
mute
back to
button.
the dark days.
I don't. The dark days. That was just a month ago where I was hitting the mute button 14 times.
Yeah.
It's not working.
Yeah, we were hot mic'd, and I was talking to Savage, and then we were, dealing with
we
the
weren't
mute.
mic'd anymore.
No.
Yeah.
So if you've listened this far, and I hope you have, we have got a little bit of a listener requested topic. Actually, it's entirely a listener requested
Yeah,
topic.
and if you have ideas, we're all ears. Send it to us.
We are all ears. We want to address some of these conversations, but it's also something that we are dealing with more and more. And so we have customers coming to us and going, but I had
how
the vehicle.
do you do this?
How do you do this? And we
Yes.
are going to be talking about storing your vehicle,
Yes.
right? Or the idea that a lot of people go, oh, it's so weird. I really haven't driven my vehicle in 3 or 5 years or
Yes.
or whatever.
And they think it's like a suspended animation. It just sits there like it was. You can make fun of that word later.
You know what?
You
So
were
the
close
problem
enough
is-
that I'm not going to make fun of that.
Oh,
He was
okay.
so close, and the concept of suspended animation was actually so accurate
Yes.
that it's just
People, their time, they think the time stopped for the vehicle.
correct.
And they're off doing whatever they want to do, and they should come back in 20 years, and it should be, hit the key. The battery should still be charged.
Yes.
The air in the tires is there.
Yes.
Tires are not aged. Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest pieces is people go, well, I haven't even used the vehicle in blah blah blah, or I've only put
Yes.
I've only put 400 miles or 1,000 miles on it since
Yes.
da 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 was done. And we're going to be dispelling some of those myths or those concepts.
And just because of my background and being a car guy from like age 2, storing vehicles is something I've done a lot.
Yes. and we have acquaintances who have larger collections of vehicles.
Yes.
So from a professional standpoint, we definitely are aware of how, if you are not in your standard household garage, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
And I'll
Or-
even tell you what I do wrong.
Oh, that absolutely. And I will. And this is a issue or concept that I'm dealing with personally going, I really don't know what to do because I don't want to get any more vehicles.
Yes.
I don't want to upgrade any of my vehicles because right now in my mind, I can't keep the ones I have nice.
Yes.
Right?
I'll tell you what I
Based
did
on
wrong
storage.
this winter too. So
100%. So that will be our concept for today, and I think it's a really valuable one. And we'll talk about some of the negatives that happen during storage or lack of use, or use and then prolonged periods of sitting. Right. So this idea.
And then how you can be aware of that when you go to purchase a new to you vehicle that may or may not have been properly stored.
Correct. And that's so valuable to our listeners and followers of that concept. And then at the end, we will have a hashtag not sponsored product spotlight, which Jeffrey will be talking about and sharing.
and as part of that, I hid something in this product spotlight for today.
Oh dear.
A little surprise. I had to
Hit
get.
something.
I
He's-
had to get it to go with the grandma
Oh
couch.
dear. Hey, that should have buttons in it. There shouldn't be cookies in there.
Are
Throw those
there
away.
cookies? So for our listeners, Jeffrey just pulled the product spotlight over. He had it,
I'm not
right
saying
within
that word.
reach.
It's sealed. I've never seen that sealed.
And Royal Dansk Danish butter cookies.
That's
Yes.
right. In the
And,
blue tin.
in the old grandma blue tin that would sit on the coffee table or just under. Honestly, in my experience, this
was-
more or less.
This was in my grandma's closet with buttons and sewing material. in
Oh,
it.
okay. It is sealed. Are there actually real?
We're
Danish
gonna
butter
find out
cookies?
together because honestly, I told Davey about it ahead of time, and he said, "Well, does it actually come with cookies?" I said, "Well, it's supposed to." He goes, "Do you still have the Amazon box? You need to bring it in the Amazon box, but switch it all out with all the miscellaneous stuff." And I thought that was hilarious. I did not do that,
Oh my gracious!
but
that's
I kind of
funny.
wish I would have.
I'm kind of
However,
proud of them. They still do a tin
I'm-
container.
I'm on. Dude, I went on Amazon. I'm like, I wonder, and they were right there. It was so easy.
Well,
I'm like,
that's
I
why-
have to do it.
Years ago, I ran a promotion here at SFJ with your grandma's favorite candy. It was those strawberry
Oh, yeah,
candies
yeah.
with
Yeah.
and I got them from Amazon. I mean, everybody remembers like a bus trip or grandma's candy dish that
Yep.
had those candies in it, and it's
Those
fitting.
and butterscotch. The little butterscotch candies.
What, like Werther's Original?
Yeah.
So this oh my gracious, we got to get on to our topic today, folks. But honestly, if
That's
you
what
come
they-
into the showroom
That's what
anytime
Jeffrey
soon,
does. It's just
right, derails
yeah,
us,
derails us.
It's half
and
the
that's
fun.
not hard for me to do, right? For me to
And
derail.
those are some sealed cookies there.
They're
So
good.
we're-
They're sealed with tape. So here's the thing. So if you come into the showroom anytime soon, the candy dish on the front has peppermints and some other, and I will throw like different candy. So you could come in. There's never one set candy that we use. So my wife and her high school best friend come in over the last week. And they're like, this is some garbage candy. This is called Grandma's Purse Candy. And it's like at the bottom of ours, like it's the derelict candy that people have dug through to
Yes.
get in our candy
It's
dish.
been there for an extended
And
period
they're
of
calling
time.
it grandma or mom's purse candy, grandma or mom's church purse candy.
Yeah.
And it's the candy that you give to the kid and who's in church to give them something to focus on
Yes.
because they're too squirrely otherwise. And so as
That's when
making
the bad
fun of us,
candy goes in.
that's where the bad candy goes, right? But the kid will eat it at the church because they're just that desperate to focus on
Yes.
something else. So my wife and her best friend Kelly bring back all of this like Werther's Original and hard candies and like caramel cream center and like Reason, like not your traditional, Hershey's mix or anything
the
like that.
upscale grandma
right?
there, man.
Well, yeah, totally the upscale grandma stuff,
Mine
right?
was in the no name bin that you got from the.
No, totally.
grocery
This was
store.
all the name brand grandma candy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird.
And I
No
kind of
time
made
for
fun
that.
of them. It was Thursday. It was Thursday. Thursday night they come in. We're at our facility. We're in the shop showroom late, kind of cleaning up, doing some stuff, talking about life. They refilled the candy jar with all of this. They went to the Dollar General. Kelly specifically, I believe, had did it, but Jennifer and her were communicating, and they refilled our candy dish. Friday was so busy, and I had harassed them so much about this grandma candy that they bought to replace ours. All of it was gone by the evening.
Oh, it was crazy.
It was crazy. I can't believe the people who came into our showroom who were excited about like the Werther's Original and the Reasons and the Grandma Purse Candy, and it's all gone. I actually took a picture and shared it with them because I was like, they had the jar full.
We're going to have to start charging
It was
candy now.
it was full to the brim.
It
Scott.
was full with this candy that I would never buy.
Did Uncle Bob at least get one?
100%. I think Uncle Bob had like 3 or 4 pieces.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't know, as you are aware of the cast of our characters, Uncle Bob is actually our mailman.
Yes.
He is not related to us.
No.
But he is
You
the.
don't have to be called Uncle.
Oh
in
my
Hartford.
gosh, no! At SFJ 4x4,
You could be an uncle, cousin, whatever.
cousin, we have cousin Carl and an Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
None of these people are actually related to us, but
It's almost better that way.
it is right. Family is who you choose, to say the least. So looks like we've had a ton of comments that I
Yeah,
haven't paid
so
attention to.
the comments were coming in when we were talking about what our subject's going to be for the day. So Amy had said possums or opossums, depends
Yes.
on how you want to say it.
Yes.
Depends on how you want to say it.
I think that's a debatable one as
It's
well.
not. It's not.
Neil
It's
may
possum.
have a possum or two living in a Jeep or two. Not saying.
Oh, geez. Chip is saying, are you telling me that storing Jeeps in the woods isn't recommended?
Neil's also doing that,
Uh,
so it's fine.
and then Joe was saying under a tree with no top would be perfect.
Also that.
Oh, we definitely know people who are doing that, including
It
ourselves.
actually has the cookies in it.
This actually has the Danish Royal Butter
What's
Cookie.
this
I'm not
thing?
gonna lie,
There's
I'm a little
there's a thing
excited.
in the lid.
I think
That's
there's
just the paper.
it's the paper that says the story about royal dance started more than 75 years ago when young Anna and Marinus, some Danish name that I'm not going to try, opened a small bakery
Where's your Danish
in
accent?
a tiny village in Denmark.
He doesn't want to offend
Folks, this
anybody.
actually has cookies in it. The blue
knew?
tin. You know what? We had recently talked about with the Savage and I doing like a giveaway for our listeners, and I'm almost compelled to like
Now
give
you opened them.
a shirt and then like do in honor of our new studio setup and Grandma's couch. Like we should do a tin of these.
actual
These
sealed
ones we're
ones?
going to eat
Yeah.
internally.
Yeah, yes, because I'm
Not those
excited about
cookies.
eating
I'm
them.
excited
honestly.
about eating these, but we might be doing a.
I mean, Grandma had a lot of those tins. I never got one of those cookies.
That's what I'm saying.
So they're either really good.
I think
or-
Grandma
or
ate
they
them in
threw
the middle of the
away.
night while she was doing all the
Right.
amazing quilting or
Yes.
cleaning or cooking or whatever
My,
she
my
did.
grandma crocheted.
Or crocheting, right?
Yeah.
You're going to
Everybody.
be able to crochet like no other after you
Oh,
eat
I'm
these, Scott.
sure. I
So-
hope so.
You're super. Your grandma. I'm going to make the best potato salad that that
Well,
people
you'll know if it's good. There'll be a doily in between them.
There'll be a
next week.
doily. Folks, maybe you want this blue tin in your house. Maybe you also grew up never actually getting to enjoy these cookies. SFJ 4x4 is going to solve that for you.
Yes.
We're going to figure out the terms of this little, like, comment, subscribe, or share this, or do whatever, and we're going to send you some merch and one of Grandma's blue tin cookies.
The pretzel-shaped cookies are Chip's favorite in the tin, and yes, they are in there.
They're here, Chip.
So-
I have
so
them.
Neil-
I'm
there's-
holding them
There's
up.
2
if you're
stacks.
listening
I'm
to
gonna
us.
I'm gonna eat one right now for you,
So
Chip.
Chip had inside knowledge. His grandma shared.
Yeah. Yeah,
I feel
so
gypped.
Chip has had these cookies then,
Right.
apparently.
I have to.
Did you have to dig through the buttons and the sewing
right.
needles
I
to
think they
get
had
them?
to have.
I think there was puzzle pieces in one of these tins.
As there should be.
Usually,
Oh, my
usually when I
goodness.
got them, there was only like a couple left, and they were all broken. And then I
Oh.
finished them off, and then immediately the tin was used for something.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. So we're going to do a little giveaway with some of our stuff, some of our merch, and there might be Grandma's blue tin of cookies free
you.
to you.
But when we need to know what to use the tin for afterwards.
Oh my gosh! You
I mean,
absolutely have to respond
yeah.
back to us. You're gonna have to email or text us on our text only number. Call in. It could be any of our listeners, right? We're gonna do it so that our podcast listeners, so that our viewers, so everybody can be part of this little giveaway because we want to reward and encourage your participation.
Yep.
That was a
Definitely.
good cookie.
That was a good cookie. Thank you, Jeffrey, for
Yeah.
telling us that was a good
Yeah.
cookie. You
That
know
is-
what?
are those safe
We
by
have not
Jeff?
talked about Jeeps or storing vehicles. We told people we're going to. Are there any valuable updates to say that are going on in our lives? Jeffrey's camper build has subsided. He's dealing with a lot of family and
Yes.
just life stuff at
So
this time.
we're just doing stuff like enjoying it, and spending extra time. So we did board games on Saturday. We took the kids to the Conneaut Beach on Sunday.
Nice.
So just enjoying life.
Yes.
Yeah,
And if you're one of our customers, you know how good our beach and our
100%.
coastal restaurants are right here in Conneaut. And if you're listening, you're thinking about coming up to us. That's your incentive.
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
And for me, I drugged my camper out of storage on last Monday, and then promptly camped in it Friday night, Saturday night, and then hauled it home Sunday. Refrigerators suck, but I now know how to make them work after 2 years of the suck.
Well, you've been dealing with this.
Since we tore the camper apart and it had no floor, this has been an ongoing
Why
issue.
didn't you say something?
I don't know.
This is the first we're hearing about the refrigerator.
I fussed about it last year. You just don't remember.
I don't remember because I would have came over and helped you with that.
Anyway.
yeah, gracious.
Yeah, this is year 2 of me poking at things like an uninformed, I guess, normal person that's not a mechanic, like taking random stuff. And,
Pretending that there's magic in
yeah,
the
I'm like,
refrigerator
maybe
somewhere.
I'll poke at this and it'll start to cool, and I'll poke at that and it'll start to cool. Important things I learned this time, though, is that my freezer actually works. It will freeze a half gallon of milk solid. Even though the refrigerator was at 50 degrees.
Yes.
And that was very important part of me learning out what was actually broken. I should blame Jeff just because it's, works so well, but it's totally not his fault. But I figured it out and got
I'm not sure how
as of
Jeffrey's getting
Sunday
blamed for this.
because he helped me. So
Oh,
he's,
okay.
just has to
Just
blame.
guilty by association, Jeff.
But
Yep.
by Sunday, we had a very cold fridge when we were going home, so that was helpful.
Excellent.
Uh,
At the time that you went
and,
home.
And currently, we are dealing with a cupboard that is wet. We don't know why. And either my son took a shower on top of the toilet, which therefore made everything wet, or the toilet's leaking. I'm not sure which.
Oh,
Time
no.
will tell.
Man, houses on wheels are so much
We
fun.
actually all bonded at it was a family reunion we went to. Ironically, we had 4 people in a 17-foot camper, and I'm going to just make up words. So I don't know how long it was, like a 50-footer next to us. That was a gooseneck pole with 2 people in it. So it was the most funny thing. But we all commiserated about how they just suck.
And you know what's funny is that I think we're going to talk on this a little bit today is that you keep your 17-foot camper.
Yes, it is the most pampered camper
It is stored inside.
in the tri-state area.
Correct. You have done your best, and it's
Yes.
a newer camper.
It's a 16.
Yep. I mean, it's newer by comparison to
Yes.
a lot of other ones
At
out
this
there.
point, I have replaced half the floor.
Yep.
I have had to wash it with a toothbrush before I left because it was dirty from being inside.
So let me ask you this: when you washed everything so detailed,
Yeah.
did you recheck all the caulking and seals?
Yes.
And-
The only
and-
thing I didn't do is climb on the roof. That always makes me nervous because it's such a small area. But yes, I checked all of the
So
seals.
most likely, if you're having water intrusion issues, though, that
Yeah.
one of those seals is dry rotted at this point and just needs to be cleaned up and
if it wasn't my
outrageous.
10-year-old,
Outrageous. Yes. If it wasn't
Yeah,
a 10-year-old.
I would hope that your 10-year-old did not pee in the cupboard that's wet, though.
well, no, it's not pee in the cupboard. He got. We had a big rainstorm. He had to run with exuberance from one side of the area to the other.
Oh.
And they had just put in a nice swing set, and there was a bunch of dirt that then became mud. And his Crocs, for Neil, were not good traction aids.
Was he
Really
wearing
sorry.
socks at the time? Did he chuck the socks into the cupboard? Is that how they got wet?
Possibly. He is a sock Croc offender,
Oh.
as that generation will do. But I also embodied Neil, and I wore my flip-flops with no socks, and now I have bug bites on my feet.
Because you finally got some air on those naked ankles that haven't seen sunlight or air in the last, I don't know, year.
20 years.
Let's be honest.
My wife was proud of me.
I am proud of I'm equally proud as you. So I was not proud of myself. Talking on my Croc hating nature, I had a parenting fail over the weekend, and I just share this for a
That's
moment of
weekly for
weakness.
me.
And just to normalize the experience, so we went for a bike ride with the kids. We had if you know me, I'm not one for kind of sitting
They're
still.
all in.
We're all in, and we're always, a constant motion is what I call it. And anyway, so at one point in time, had the opportunity to, are we still live, Jeffrey?
Yeah, we're
All right, we're
We're
good.
still live.
Oh, keep
but
going.
The comments are so Facebook
Little
decided
glitchy.
to update our
Oh,
actual business page.
I love
Yeah, I
when
know.
Facebook
So-
update stuff.
Because of that, it keeps giving
That's
us
fine.
issues on the comment side.
That's fine. I let my
IT.
daughter. So we had a great start to the weekend here. Professionally with the business. We did not get an opportunity to go to a particular event that I love up in Westfield, New York. DSO put on a cool evening activity at When Pigs Fly. Definitely look for that in the future if you're in the area. Also, there's I saw a release of Oliver's in Erie will be coming up soon. So little events that can benefit you. Unfortunately, that wasn't what I got to attend, but we had a couple other good things going on. My Croc offense over the weekend was, and my parenting fail was, I let my daughter go on a bicycle ride, and she's an 8-year-old. She's a pretty strong, fairly good biker for what she is, but she did manage to biff it in a big way, crumpled into the ground in a heap of bicycle and little girl, and as I'm trying to untangle her, and I'd already made a big stink that she needed to ride her bike in her tennis shoes. But she, in a true little kid fashion, was like, I don't know where they're at, and
Oh.
and as a parent, I just wanted to get out the door. At that point in time,
Yup.
it was like I was trying to make it to the farmers market, support our local community. I had already been into the shop. I had already done a couple of things that morning, and so I was like, you know what, fine, wear the Crocs, right? And she crumples into this heap after ramrodding into a curb, and I had a moment of failure, and I was like, I went to remove her from the crumpled mess of bicycle and child. And wouldn't you know that the Croc, actually, the handlebar got slipped into the inside of her Croc strap. And literally, I could not untangle her from the bicycle because of the Croc. And I feel like they're taunting me as a a piece of apparel.
That's
So-
100% what happened.
I had a meltdown. So
happened.
my daughter went to wear her Crocs on Sunday, and she like looked over her shoulder and like gave me this little grin, like,
I'm tempting you,
I'm
Dad.
wearing the Crocs again, Dad. Yes, dear. That's fine. As long as we're not biking or ATVing or whatever in our Crocs. Yes. That was my. I had a great
At least
weekend.
it took, a bicycle for that situation where Aiden just can't walk across an open area with his Crocs without biffing it.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
So back to comments real
Yes.
quick. So Chip had mentioned that he stores a trickle charger in one of those tins.
As you should.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Joe said, "Good for you, Scott. His crawler hauler sits under a very large carport. It keeps most of the rain and sun off of it."
Yep.
And then he also, to you,
had a
Neil,
parenting
said
win.
he had a parenting win. He bought the junior in college a 21 two-door JL.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Congratulations, Joe. That's
Yeah.
fantastic for you guys. I know you had a. Joe is one of our great supporters, listeners. He has. This is Joe Harper. We actually have a couple Joes you will see active on our comments or hear comments read from previously. Joe Harper has a really cool story. And is an individual who is kind of on a pursuit to attend as many different Jeep Jamboree USA events as humanly possible.
Yep.
He's very rigored in how he schedules his work commitments.
I wonder if
And-
they've ever crossed paths with Brilla.
He has not. He has
Huh.
not yet. Now, there was a particular event. It was kind of funny. We actually had 3 or 4 of our customers, Joe Harper being one of them, was at a JJUSA event, and I don't exactly remember which one it was. And I don't think the Joe and Linda were at this one, and Joe Harper was there, but we actually had 3 or 4 customers at this one event. They didn't actually exactly cross paths with each other, but it was fun knowing that all of these Jeeps that we have been
That would be
aware of or a part of have
that'd
been
be
there.
a fun thing. If you ever find another SFJ customer in the wild and you find each other, you
The-
should,
the
you should
way
totally
wild.
take a picture and tag us in it.
Yeah,
That'd be
I know a
fun.
lot of people who find within our 3-hour market radius,
Yes,
right?
that
the,
has happened.
but the big wild is very fun, very exciting.
I
when
think
that
my
happens.
favorite story of that, though, is when you were at a gas station
Yes.
and you had 2 different customers
Yes. At the same
talking to
time.
you at the same time.
Yes.
And then they found each other.
And then they looked around the gas pump and they were like, "You're talking to him? You know him?" And the
Yeah.
other guy was like, "You know him?"
Yes.
Yeah,
Pretty-
and they were friends.
Yeah, we were I was up in the Cleveland area getting gas, and so in one trifecta,
Yes.
of
And they've
interaction.
referenced that sense.
Yes, it's super, and I'm telling you, it's just so funny. There's so many serendipitous. I'm a religious person, and so it's amazing how many what I call God winks happen via this pursuit, this business endeavor, the good people that come together, and the change that happens in our community because of it. So.
Yep.
And it's really neat, and one of the things that I've recently been thrust back into, especially as we prepare to a next new big adventure for the business, to look back on people who have become best friends through this business.
Yep.
It's really interesting that customers actually connect with each other and then go, hey, I really like wheeling with this person. And then all of a sudden they're going out to dinner, as couples or individuals. I mean, even then people who have become friends with us through the process. It's super, super cool. The adventure that I was talking about, and we're setting the tone. It's only 2 weeks away, really, is if you've seen the marketing, look for it. We are Mecum bound. If you're unfamiliar with what Mecum is, it's one of the more prestigious auto auctions in the nation. There is 7 or 9 of them nationally.
If you're a car guy and you don't watch any sports, this is your NFL.
Correct.
Yeah, this is what we watch, and we, instead of guessing who's going to make the touchdown or whatever you guys do in football, because I don't know.
That's fine. They do the things.
At
with
least
the
you
sports
said
ball.
touchdown. It was better than last time we talked about football.
That's fine. We always try to guess how much this car will be, or holy crap, I can't believe those have gone up that much, or that kind of stuff is usually what we do in those things. But it's on national television.
Correct. So I'm very, very proud of this, and it is a serendipitous. It is just a divine experience for me because if you are familiar, this is one of those moments where the ingredients in this recipe are coming together in such a perfect way for the front end. On the back end, it's very challenging for me. I'm having to handle certain logistics that I did not anticipate. We've got, we did not anticipate going to this event, so on and so forth. But we have a customer that we started working with in 2012 through 14 was their initial point of contact and build. One of our earliest customers, taught me a lot of lessons. Is just a tough-nosed character from downtown Pittsburgh, born and raised, and became a great customer of ours over the last decade. We developed a wonderful relationship with him and his wife. And they went on, they met through the Jeep community, through JJ USA. They met another couple from Chicago. We got introduced to them. They became lifelong friends. And it's a high-dollar Jeep Cherokee XJ that we have been putting together for 10 years.
Continually.
And at
this point, it's like a fine wine. It's very refined.
It's incredibly refined.
And it's actually a challenge because people see XJs and they think, oh, that's a $2,000 vehicle. Not this one.
Not this one. This one has the documentation and the quality components. Got just the best of the best name brands on it. It's got replacement. It's got custom axles and skids and sliders. I mean, it's got a ton of fabricated work. It is genuinely an ideal product. And the owner, his name's Jim, he just is ready to go a different way in his life. He's literally, 11 years, 10, 11 years, change from where he initially started. And he'd like to let go of it to reinvest in something else in his at this point in his life. The thing about that Jeep is it's a great representation of specifically our lead mechanic Greg's craftsmanship. We've all touched the Jeep. It was actually one of the earliest Jeeps where it was just Greg and I, and so I personally did a lot on that Jeep as well back in the days when I was spinning a wrench.
I'll go
and you have done a good bit.
That's the nicest driving XJ I've ever driven.
100%. Jim thought Jim bought an XJ, but he really wanted a Ferrari. That's what it came down to. But it's a great example of the product that we can create for a customer. And specifically on the performance side of our business. And Jim was ready to move on, and he had listed it for sale a couple places, and he talked about taking it to Mecum, and he was only like so on that. While we're having that conversation over here,
completely unplanned
and unrelated, the current owner of the 79 Wagoneer,
I found it,
right? That Scott had done a resto mod on over the course of a year and a half. Did a beautiful original inspired resto mod on.
Actually, it's more challenging because we tried to leave it alone to some extent. And we didn't just completely blow it apart. Those are actually easier.
Blowing them apart and putting them back together. That owner who had bought it a year ago from the Found It owner, we helped initiate that transaction. He took it down to Florida. He tooled around in it. He enjoyed it.
It's on everything he wants
Took it
to do.
It did everything he wanted to do. Took it to a couple shows, showed it, had all the fun with it. He approaches us at Bantam Jeep Heritage Festival and goes, "Hey, I'm taking this to Mecum. It's already registered. I already did the paperwork, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, get the heck out of here. And Jim, the XJ owner, equally goes, "We're doing it." He listed it for sale at Bantam, got just a couple tickle bites, and he said, "I'm doing it. I'm going to Mecum." I kid you not, folks. Both of these Jeeps, one a representation in my mind of Greg's craftsmanship, one a representation of Scott's craftsmanship. Again, the whole business touches these, the whole logistic, the happiness of the customer. That's a whole Jeeper experience.
Yep.
But in the end, we have these phenomenal builders who oversee the kind of the big picture of the project, right? Us, me and you working together, me and Greg working together, you guys, kind of the weight of the craftsman aspect fall on your shoulders. These two Jeeps, one is getting sold on Thursday, one is getting sold on Friday. It's a 5-day long auction.
Yeah.
The fact that this is happening the way it's happening is super cool. So this is a long story to tell you. We're headed to Mecum to kind of show off what Scott and Greg have accomplished in their professional careers, what SFJ 4x4 has created as a whole, the impact we've had on the Jeep community, and we're going to see what these Jeeps do when they go across the auction block.
Yep.
They could go home with the same owners based on a reserve selling price, and these owners are prepared for that. Or they could sell to the next individual that will take them on many adventures. And I hope that they do for everybody involved. We're there to support the sale, to talk about it, to answer questions for people, and just in general, share that experience that I am very proud of, that we have gotten to that level to accomplish, and that you guys as builders have accomplished.
And it'd be really cool just to see the process and how it works, and the other vehicles that'll be there as well. It'll just be really cool to see that part.
100%. Well, speaking of all of those things, and that's coming up at the end of the month.
And I know you said 2 weeks out, but literally that's next week.
That hurt me.
I know
That hurt
it
me,
did.
Jeffrey.
I know it did.
That touched.
So you're talking 10 days away. You guys are shipping out.
Okay, cool. That's a great story. That is a great story. By the time that
fine.
some people are listening to this, it will
be there.
We'll be there.
Yeah.
So that's happening. But you know what? That's a great segue into these types of preserving the value of your vehicle,
Yes.
right?
How do you get it to me?
Found it. How do you get it to Mecum? Found it, lived in a garage for 20 years.
Yes.
Right?
It got so lucky.
And that was one of the interesting vehicles that have made it well.
Yes.
You're storing stuff in a garage, and some of the stuff is aging well, and some of it is not.
Yes.
Right? So let's talk about that, because quite frankly, we've had a couple customers recently who said, "Hey, I'm not even using this vehicle. It was parked for 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
It was started and moved around the lot once or twice." How does storing a vehicle, how does that transfer in valuation to the final product when you do actually go out there 3, 5, 10 years later and you want to do something with this vehicle?
Well,
how do we have found it on one hand, and we have these customers who have honestly, one of the Jeeps that stands out to us specifically is a TJ that we're doing a frame off on.
60,000 mile TJ.
60,000 mile TJ, which is
Had
one of the
double
worst.
layered carpets that protect the interior. This is the level they took and found grandma's carpet remnants and put on top of the carpet in the Jeep
to try and protect
to protect it. And it is the rustiest TJ, I'll go on record, I've ever seen underneath. It is bad.
Yeah, especially at that running, driving, moving, right?
And we kind of uncovered, peeled back the layers of the onion, us with the customer. And I have a smoking gun on what happened. And what I'll go into that is it's how you store your vehicles is almost very important. What's the last trip you did before you stored it? Did you almost run out of gas? Did you go down a dirt road? Did you just drive it back from the worst blizzard of your life?
Yes.
And then you stick it in the garage. And sometimes the problem is we don't plan that storing.
No.
We just come in, shut it off. It's in the garage, and then life happens.
Oh, you took the words out of my mouth. Life happens.
And then you next thing you know, it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, and that vehicle is just sitting there.
It was never your intention to
Never
leave
your
it in this capacity. And man, you hit the nail on the head.
And what specifically happened with this TJ is they had a family that was growing, expanding. They were going into med school, and one was in high school. 2 boys there, and they were interchangeably using it. It was a third vehicle. So mom and dad aren't really watching how it's being used,
Sure.
but they weren't abusing it either. They all have great memories of this Jeep, and love it dearly at this point. They did not buy it new, but they tried to do appropriate buying education when they did that. Had obviously very low miles on it when they bought it. But what was happening is they were driving into Cleveland for time at the hospital, and then it would get stopped, and stored. And there is literally still salt on the frame of this Jeep.
Yes.
Still to
Yes.
this day. And it has not been driven in the winter in a long time.
Yes.
So
years and years and
that
years.
salt has continued to eat and make problems for this Jeep. And anything that was a little spot that could start to rust has.
Yes.
There is no body mounts on the driver's side at all.
Right.
Left at
Right.
all. And the sad part is, look at the Jeep, a 20 foot away. You would never know.
Correct. And we actually had one that we actually refused to work on and purchase.
That was better shaped than this.
That was arguably better shaped than this.
Yes.
And again, it was that specific Jeep was actually owned by a funeral home.
Yep.
And you think about how well funeral homes tend to care for their vehicles. You know,
Yes.
they have frequent
And
car washing and whatnot. And this was
this
a
one
Jeep that they used for their
plowing.
plowing.
Yes.
It was a worst case scenario.
Yes.
They literally took it out in the winter just to beat on it.
Yep.
It only had 60,000
I
miles
think
on
it
it.
was less than that.
Yeah, and they would go, shunt some errands in the winter, but then it would sit.
Yep.
It would sit. It would get all schmutzed up on the frame,
Yep.
and then it would sit. And so there is a lesson to be learned there. But I want to go back, and I kind of want to break this down for people in a kind of a.
I'll say it's even worse in our market because Jeeps are a tool. They are something you use on muddy roads, back roads,
Mhm.
winter vehicles. And at that time, you never intend it to be a classic or desirable or anything of value. It is
Yes.
a tool that you're going to own for this period of time, and then it's going to go off somewhere else in its life. But something happens, something clicks where you're like, this is an old shoe that I love, an old baseball glove,
Yep.
and these little nicks and bruises in it. I remember those, and I want to hold on to it. Well, the problem is all that use of loving it
Yes.
takes its toll on it. So
Yes.
you have to be cognizant of that and be understanding that now we got to pay for those uses.
We got to pay for we got to pay for that. And that's what I was going to say is that we're going to break this down into, storing and that utilization is kind of the first and foremost thing is we never, what I heard you say was you don't know what drive is that last drive,
Yes.
right? And so the idea that, hey, this is where I shut the vehicle off. I see the listings all the time. If you don't know about me, I'm a purveyor of the classified ads.
Yes.
It's one of the things that makes me kind of unique in my position.
We can't help it.
I love the concept of buying and selling. I just genuinely can't help it.
Real quick, I'm just going to interrupt with this comment. Chuck just chimed in and said Doc Brown has a doctorate in philosophy.
Yeah, he does. He does. Very thoughtful individual. I always see ran when parked.
Yes.
Yeah.
How long ago was that
How
parked?
long ago was that parked? And,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it ran
And
well
was
or
it
anything else was
doing
going
a
on.
Brody in a dirt field before it was parked?
Correct. Did it
At the
did it-
rev limiter.
Did it rev limiter in and a dying breath?
Yeah.
You shut it off,
Yeah.
Did
So-
you go bahaing through the mud with it first?
Yes.
So if there's any inkling, of course we can't always look into our crystal ball and know that
No.
this is the last time I'm going to drive this vehicle or move this vehicle for a really long time. I've got vehicles stored inappropriately all over the area. I'm not disclosing where, when, or how many.
Yeah.
I can
If
just say
you know.
I was going to say there's things there.
Reasons you should be on the Discord. Just saying.
Yes.
Oh,
yes. You should be part of our Patreon. We got a couple new Patreon people. We have to make sure we to welcome
give
them
a
at the
shout
end. Give them a shout out. But but the idea that your intention is never to leave it in such a way that is depreciating,
Yes.
but ultimately
Because they are investments.
they are investments, or
and
they do
that's-
make us happy, right?
Yes.
So even if it's not a financially sound investment,
Yes.
it is an investment in our own enjoyment or happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of storing a vehicle is arguably that concept of creating the best possible experience, right? That valuation of what makes me happy. And so I know that there's a number of things that I have lingering out there that I'm going, that's not how I want this to be stored. That's not how, this is not aging well, right?
Yeah, and say I can completely identify with it because I like to use my vehicles as much as possible. So I will be into late October, sometimes even November, depending on how the weather goes, still trying to do that last drive.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm looking at a week in the future of the forecast, and it's like, hey, we're going to get this
Yes.
law happen, and it's a mad scrapple right at the last minute to stuff everything away, and you forget about that Cheeto that the kids had in the back seat, and now it's laying on the carpet, and you pull it out in May, and it's grown into the carpet,
Yes.
and it's colored that you don't even want to describe. That stuff happens.
Right. Right. And how do we and so the idea here is we have short-term storage and we have long-term storage.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes short-term turns into long-term.
Yes.
And once we've gotten to that point of short turning into long, how do we then go back and make the best of it?
Yeah.
Right? So you're talking about putting it away for winter.
Yep.
Some people have
I've got a story about putting it away for winter.
well, okay, and then some people have some people who have their toy, either their hot rod or their car is it lives at another property,
Yeah.
and they'll go
Very
get it
common.
out 2 or 3, after 2 or 3 weeks, they'll drive it for a weekend or a week, and then
Yep.
it'll go back to bed for 2 or 3 weeks. So that's, again, a short-term storage option. So we're going to try and give you some tools in conversation for either one of those, and not just the philosophical approach.
Mm-hmm.
What story were you going to share with us, Jeffrey?
So when it comes to winter storage, making sure that if it is a temporary storage unit, it's durable enough to hold up to the elements for your area.
Okay.
Because I purchased a carport last year
Oh.
for a decent amount of money,
I
and
warned you.
I put it up, and it held up great with the winds. It was doing great with the heavy rains. The Northeast Ohio, great, the Great Lakes. You get those freak snowstorms that just dumps on you.
Sure.
We had one of the first major snowstorms, dumped so much snow that within an hour there was a foot of snow on it,
Sure.
and it collapsed the carport onto my wife's car.
Yeah, not good.
And that was $8,000 worth of damage done to her car.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
So
I too have a similar story, and I'll just expedite it and say that one of the buildings that I was storing vehicles in, now granted, I was there free of charge, but it was a building that other property was stored in via money. So people were paying to have their vehicles stored in this building.
Mm-hmm.
It could be $50 a month. It could be $75 a month.
Yeah.
The roof, it was structurally unsound.
Yep.
And the roof collapsed similarly under snow load.
Yeah.
For me, it was free of charge, and I knew the risks. But if you are an individual who's thinking about storing your vehicle for the winter or short-term storage of some capacity, you really have to understand, where am I putting my vehicle? Is it the best
100%.
place, right? So that's kind of first and foremost in your first and foremost is, what was the last thing I was doing with my vehicle?
Yep.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's just the vehicle itself.
That's just the vehicle
Then you got to look
itself.
at the container you put the vehicle into.
Correct. And the
Yes.
container that it goes into, is it a sound space? Because not only is it environmentally sealed?
Darla just said, well, there goes the carport idea. Yeah, I don't recommend a carport in
don't
this
do that.
area.
Don't do the
Or you got to
carport.
go all in and
Don't do
fuel.
the tents either. I'm an idiot because I keep buying these
We've done
fabric
it.
tents.
We've
Stop
been-
doing it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, please stop buying these tents.
Yeah.
The last tent I put up, I knew that I was only going to have up for 8 months. What is it? A year and a quarter later, the
mean,
tent's half fallen down.
I don't want to call you out.
I mean, if you
You
were
can call
gonna
me
do
out.
a carport idea, then sure, go all in though and build
Yeah.
it structurally sound.
It's a garage at that
Not-
point with outside walls.
Yes.
That's where you have to be.
But
Correct.
But these stopgap measures, these here's my number one lessons: you pay now or you pay later, but you
Yes.
always pay.
Yeah,
And you buy the cheap tent garage, you buy the cheap carport, you're gonna pay later, no matter what.
100%.
And
you're
that's
gonna
just
throw
a
it away
life
before you
lesson.
get the use.
Correct. So
And I've even gone as far as paid for storage off site, was in a decent enough area, and they had a break in, and they literally tried to saw the exhaust off my truck and stole radio equipment out of it and change and all kinds of stuff. And I got off lightly, I feel, and they didn't even tell me until I went to go get the vehicles.
oh dear.
So I've run the gamut of storing cars over the years, but still storing it in that building was a better choice than driving it in the winter or storing it outside.
So we'll get to that in a hot second because
Yep.
outside is kind of where a lot of people might just be forced into.
yes,
But we were talking about those buildings. So you brought up a good point of if I am doing short-term storage and I'm making sure that the building's not going to collapse or the carport's not going to collapse on me. Now, what kind of area and what kind of security measures do I have?
Yep.
Right? That's really, really important. The other
And-
thing is critter intrusion.
oh, that's
Yep.
so hard.
Okay. So we have environmental, we have social, you know what I mean,
Yes.
as far as, hey, is it safe?
Yep.
But then critter intrusion.
Yes.
And we have had
If it exists for critter deterrent, I've tried it.
and we have had customers come in with peppermint, with Irish
Yeah.
what's that, the soap,
Irish
Irish
Spring.
Irish Spring.
doesn't work.
The
No.
only thing
I
that
literally
feel
had
like,
mice chew on Irish Spring bars of soap
Oh,
that I
we
put
have
in the garage.
Constantly.
we've had customers constantly chewing on Irish Spring bars. It doesn't
Not-
work.
not the
Not
customer, they're mice.
customers.
Wow. Well then. Well then.
I mean, if it is the
That's
customers,
the
I don't
grandma's
know,
purse
I mean-
candy. That's
Yeah.
when we don't have grandma's
Oh,
purse
boy.
candy out front. We constantly stop putting Irish Spring in your vehicles. First and foremost, I can just straight up say that peppermint cotton balls don't
Maybe
work.
for the first week.
Maybe a little bit, but then you have to keep that
Yeah.
peppermint super strong.
You got to
Yeah.
be able to go out and reapply
The
a lot.
only product that I found has personally worked in my own experience is mothballs.
Yes, and
And
I've literally
all the mothballs.
Yes, I've told people. I said, a mouse is a mammal, and it has similar needs as you.
Yes.
So if you don't like it, there's a good chance that the mouse does not like it either.
Yes.
If you like it, then the mouse is going to like it.
Yes.
And I can't stand mouthballs, and they can't either.
And I use the heck out of mothballs in my storage application simply
And,
because
after
I
a while,
value.
it gets better.
It's exactly right. You get adjusted to it. But you know what?
They don't.
They don't.
No.
And because it's only a momentary interaction with the mothball and
And
it
the crazy part
overloads their sensory.
is, like my camper, I just experienced it this week. I mothballed the crap out of that, and I get the moisture absorbent things, and I put 2 or 3 of those in there. If your cupboards are closed, they doesn't get the mothball smell, and they will still go in there.
Yes.
They won't go on the counters. They won't be in the bedding. They won't be in that area. But anywhere that is isolated from that, they will go.
Yes. And so that's been my experience. There's some plug-in options that are supposed to emit frequency and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I don't know that I buy any of that. It's supposed to be a highway frequency, keep the critters
They have
out.
their limitations.
And the thing is, you would have to be storing in a space where you have access to electric.
Yeah.
Now,
Speaking of, that includes your batteries.
and I love that idea, right?
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about the space, storing indoors ideally, environmental safety precautions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this in a good area? And really, real quick before we get with plug-in, and don't let me get sidetracked too much.
Too late.
Carrying a level of insurance
Yes.
that protects storage,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All vehicles
Have
have,
plan for the unplanned.
yeah. So don't take your insurance off it entirely.
No.
You can go down to liability, but the biggest thing,
Fire and theft.
fire and theft,
Yep.
and make sure that your deductible is appropriate to the damage that could happen to your vehicle. So if your fire and theft is $1,000,
Yes.
I gotta tell you,
Ain't gonna get it done.
a broken window, a stereo missing,
Yep.
and
Exhaust missing.
exhaust missing,
It's stainless.
that's about $1,000 there.
Oh, more.
Well, I mean, at that point in time, yeah, but you're paying out $1,000. Are you actually getting
Yeah.
appropriate return?
Yep.
I would call and make sure that your fire and theft deductible. Yeah, you might pay a little more in your premium per month, but I would keep your deductible low, so that you're paying only $200 out of pocket.
And have that uncomfortable conversation with your insurance agent and say, okay, I have this vehicle. This is what I have invested in it. They are there to help you. It's not I'm not going to tell him because they're out to charge me more money. No, because at the end, something happens as a total loss. And, you're like I am with my car, you're $25,000-$30,000 into it
right
at this point.
for a vehicle that otherwise a book says is
Is worth
valueless.
that. Say, I'll just make up numbers, say 6, and you hadn't have that conversation with your insurance agent, and then something happens, they're going to pay you 6.
Yep.
And it is what it is, and no amount of whining or dealing with it after the fact is going to make up for that. If you're in that situation, then you have to pay the piper, which is hard,
Yeah.
and put a agreed value onto that vehicle.
And I got to be honest, as far as buildings that you're storing in, unless you are storing in an actual facility that focuses on vehicle storage, right? That they are set up to do high-end vehicle storage, they may not be carrying sufficient amount of property insurance.
Or likely not.
They're likely not. You,
Yeah.
as the vehicle owner, our listeners right now,
Yeah, you are liable.
you are responsible for your stored vehicle,
Yep.
right? And so understand, don't rely on them that they're going to do what you
Yeah.
think they are supposed to do. They're just
Or their property insurance may only cover so much.
their property insurance may only cover so much valuation. So again, if you have that $30,000 vehicle,
Yep.
you might, if you didn't tell your insurance agent that it's worth more than 6,
Yep.
their insurance certainly isn't going to give you more than 6.
And it sucks because that makes your premiums go up, but it's a
Right, but if this
Cause and
is
effect.
a worthwhile vehicle that you are trying to store appropriately,
Yep.
short or long term,
Yep.
then you want that appropriate parachute. And so
Yes.
that's one of the valuable things is in our talking points is first and foremost, what was the last drive
Yep.
before the storage, short or long term? What things is it being stored in?
Yep.
And then is that evaluation prior to storage and then
I'm
during
gonna go
storage
one better.
appropriate?
What are you storing around it?
So what do you mean by that?
Well, when something becomes a storage container, it's amazing how I really like this door, but
Yes.
the store's not going to be used until this time. And so where am I going to put this door? Well, I have this building
Yes.
and it has these cars in it and there's
Yes.
these aisleways. I'll just put it in there and lean it up gently against that. And
Oh.
You
then
mean I
some-
shouldn't store my fireworks in the same building as the vehicles?
I mean, fireworks is not even that big of a deal to me.
And all the gas cans?
Unless you're paying somebody else, or somebody else is paying you to have it stored in there. It's 100%.
You don't know how many fireworks I have.
I get exactly what Scott is saying because
Jeff's
how
insurance being
often.
dropped as we speak.
Right. Yeah. Jeff's insurance agent is like, well, it was nice knowing you.
Yeah, well,
Canceled.
I get exactly what you're saying because it's like, I have this building. I like this household door, this piece of furniture,
100%.
and I'm just gonna shove it in close to this vehicle. And
Yeah.
somebody just moved it, and now it got really close to this car.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you get it out next spring, and there's this scratch that goes from one end of the vehicle to the other.
I promise you, folks, from my
happened.
own bad my bad experiences when we used to go to events. In the early years, right, 12 to 16 or so, 17, we had these enclosed car haulers. We had an enclosed trailer, and we would carry a Jeep or two, Jeep in there, and then we would pack parts in around it to sell the parts at shows.
Yep.
I destroyed more parts,
Yes.
and I scratched up my personal Jeep in that process.
100%.
Because you just couldn't do both.
Yes.
You can do one or you can do the other.
Yes.
And depends on what your focus needed to be on. At that time, my focus was surviving.
Yes.
So
And you got to do what you got to do. We're just telling you best practice, not what actually reality
correct.
is.
We want you to learn from our experiences, but reality is reality.
Easy to fix that is just put a car cover on it, and then you have a isolation between it. Now, with that said, do I cover my vehicles like I should? No.
So there are some options when you are stored indoors.
Yes.
Again, this is more long-term storage.
Couple months.
Is they do have nice form fit car covers.
Yep.
So throw the mothballs in if you can stand it. Put the car cover over
just
it.
put them in.
Put them in. Put them in.
Wear a
not the Irish
respirator if you
Spring,
have to. You
Yeah,
know.
that's fine.
and then put the car cover on it.
Yep.
If you are in a space where you're trying to pack a lot of things in, car dollies are nice. They allow
Yes.
mobility and you can squeeze things in. I've seen pool noodles used
Mm-hmm.
to put the locks on the car dollies and then pool noodle the sides between between spaces, apparatus, that you could be bouncing across it.
Yep.
And then even on the higher end of things, there are actually car bubbles you
Yes.
can buy that are small bubbles that help with climate control and airflow.
Yes.
Here's the piece, right? Jeffrey had brought up electricity.
Yep.
If you are in a space where you have access to electricity, a battery tender is pivotal.
Yes.
A lot of our jobs most recently, I am actually just building battery tenders into the service,
Yes.
the repair order,
I mean,
service
batteries
order.
at this point are $150 to $300.
Yes.
That is a big investment.
We can put a battery tender for battery tender is $40-$50
Yep.
and wired in well so that it's hardwired. All you have to do is plug into a 110 wall outlet.
Yep.
That's a great insurance plan that we can give you right on your vehicle
Yep.
that preserves it for short or long term, so that if you just pull in and that, hey, I'm just pulling this in temporarily.
I don't care if you're doing it for a week. If every Sunday you go to the car cruise and it sits for a week until the next Sunday, plug it in.
100%.
That will be the difference between you not being able to leave that car show later
Yes.
with the battery being junk because it's constantly depreciating. You're only driving it that few miles. It's never getting a full charge. And now you've shortened that battery's life. If it's always full, it's going to be fine.
I'm gonna
Correct.
go a step further. If you do not have power,
100%.
disconnect the battery.
Yes.
Just disconnect it.
Yep.
So I will take that yet further.
Yep.
If you do not have power and you're in a position, disconnect it, remove the battery from the
Yes.
vehicle.
Yep.
For twofold. One is that theft issue, because
Yes.
now if it's just a loosey-goosey battery, you could be subject to somebody grabbing it and going. Two, I like to have batteries have a level of temperature control.
Mhm.
So a battery will have a better lifespan if you can keep it in a space where it's not penduluming wildly from hot to cold.
Yes.
You don't want a battery to depreciate naturally and be subjected to the cold. You want to keep it in a space that stays between 50 and 75 degrees.
And perhaps you can get a tender for wherever else you're going to store the battery, so that you
Exactly.
can maintain the battery while it's not in the vehicle.
For many years, we
That's
take
what
the
I do.
battery out. I take it to the basement or a back room,
Yep.
put it on a tender, like Jeffrey's saying. Now it's in my household. It just sits on a tender all,
Yep.
all,
It
all
want to be
winter.
somewhere you're going to be near it once in a while. So check on.
Correct.
Yep.
And that is such valuable information to say, hey, these are the best practices for
Yep.
storing.
Another thing too is if it's going to be 6 months, by doing what Neil just said, where you remove the battery, you have it stored elsewhere. Now that mouse goes in and they chew that hot wire that's got a constant power or something like that. Now you don't have a house fire,
Correct.
because when you put the battery in and then suddenly you see smoke, you're there, you can attend to it appropriately. If that happens while it's in storage off somewhere else, you're none the wiser until the vehicle is gone.
Yes, until that mouse has chewed through the insulation and creating a dead short, and now we have the battery has welded itself, or the wires have welded itself into the vehicle.
And plus, your vehicle. So has it had a brand new wiring harness installed, or does it have old original wiring that you don't know how many times Jim Bob's put in radios, cut things, splice
100%.
things, that kind of stuff? That's the stuff you have to worry about.
All right, so we have a few minutes left. We want to talk about, these are all the ideal situations,
Yes.
right? The last piece I'll mention real quick is a fuel stabilizer. Okay,
Yes.
so we'll just call it that. Fuel stabilizer. There's a number of different products out there, but you want to make sure that
Do
you
something.
have something to preserve that you have fresh fuel on startup next time that you jump into the vehicle. If it's a few weeks at a time, run premium fuel through it. I understand the octane. It may not be exactly appropriate for your motor, but the higher octane fuels tend to have better lasting power than
and
the
if you have an old carbonated vehicle, like I do, try to put ethanol-free fuel in it
To the
or
best of your ability.
ethanol remover in it, because the carburetor will be happier long term.
100%. So there's a couple other little peculiarities there with storing that vehicle, kind of that short term or even long term. Those are your ideal. Let's talk about not ideal. Let's just give people kind of a rundown on what you shouldn't do.
Well, you shouldn't park your vehicles in your driveway for the whole summer with no wax on them and no cover on the windows.
Is that, are you speaking from personal experience?
Yes. Yeah, the Rambler's paint and my truck's paint have failed significantly in my ownership because of that kind of storage practice.
Interesting.
Do not park on the grass.
There you go. Do not park on the grass. I
Yes.
understand that you might be listening right now, and this might be the only option you have is parking on the grass. Here's the thing. Do anything in your power to get that vehicle up off the ground
Yes.
and make sure that
Air
there is
is your
sufficient
friend.
airflow underneath the vehicle.
Yep.
Do not park on wet dirt floors or really dirt or gravel floors, period.
Yeah.
And if you have the means to keep air circulating,
Yes.
because it sounds crazy, but that air, drying out that air will be your best benefit.
Yep.
Um,
And you need something to isolate it between. And at some point in my life, I went as far as I put Visqueen down on the dirt floor.
what is Visqueen for people who are listening?
It's a thin mill plastic that you buy at your at Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yep. Yep.
Lowe's if you're Jeffrey.
Yep.
No doubt.
Then I went and I got all the pallets I could muster, and I palletized the floor over top of the plastic. And then I got lucky enough that I found a countertop for free, and I screwed that down. I made my own wooden floor.
Yep.
And what I did is I moved that vehicle off the dirt floor at least 6 inches,
Yes.
if not more. Plus, then you figure the distance from the tires up, and that actually worked really well.
Yes.
Uh,
And I too have done a tarp in the grass,
Yep.
pallets,
Yep.
2x4s,
Yep.
and as stringers, and drove the vehicle, or pushed the vehicle down there,
Yep.
and getting it up off the ground. You really don't want that grass to be touching the body side.
No.
It will be the fastest way for that vehicle to become one with the earth again.
Yes.
So we don't want to store it in the direct harsh elements.
Be sun, rain, or snow.
Correct. And obviously that last drive or the last time you store it should not be winter and salty roads and then
Yes.
onto grass. I hear a lot of people say, but I parked it on the pavement,
Yeah.
right? If your last drive was in the schmutz of the road
Yep.
and you parked it on the pavement and then it has just been subjected to heat and cool cycles
Yep.
without any extra movement. The worst thing you can do with vehicles is not use them.
Yes.
That is 100% the biggest
And-
challenge.
And I will do something on that note. Tarps are not car covers.
No,
They hold moisture to the car, and you will not have a roof.
that is the truth. Is something interesting. You can use tarps appropriately when working with cars, but car covers need to breathe.
Yes.
They have to be able to vent out the moisture.
Yep.
It's actually not a whole lot dissimilar from dealing with your house. We recognize that moisture is always going to be present, but we have to be able to try and expel it from the product.
Block
and-
moisture from coming in, allow moisture to escape.
Correct.
Yeah. And I've got traditionally, even in a fairly temperature controlled garage, I will crack the windows on the car to allow temperature change to not affect the interior differently than the outside of the car as well.
Yes.
That's where moisture can take hold, mold can start. You want that air to move around and be able to get from there. And I know it's a challenge because they're giving you rodent a way to get in. That's why you just crack it. But
That's why you got
air.
mothballs in there.
And that's why there's mothballs in there. And don't be surprised if, halfway through storage, you need to supplement some mothballs.
Yes. So I think that for the most part, here's the thing.
Darla's asking, is Simpson Family Jeep storage?
We wish.
Yeah, right.
We're
I actually have a long time played with professional storage idea. We're not there yet, but we've had people coming to us
you'll
for
know 'cause
hard
our
tops
cars
and
will look
soft
nicer.
tops. Yeah, yeah. I'm actually at a point where, like I said, I've got some interesting vehicles, and I
That's
desire.
a problem. If you wanted to make SFJ a storage facility, you'd have to buy one big enough that would support all of your own vehicles first,
And mine.
and Scott's, and then we might have room for a couple
Yeah,
customer
that's
vehicles.
Very, very, very much on the struggle bus here.
Yeah.
I recognize that. I do. But there is merit to it as a society that I think we're penduluming. This has kind of been a term that I've used, and it's how I look at the world. We went through a large level of consumption from maybe the 60s through the 90s. Absolutely. We saw businesses grow to the point where they really are advertising consumption, right? A consumer-based market. I think we are starting to swing back the other direction. People going, I kind of want to downsize. I want a little bit smaller. Certainly, I know that's something that my family is going through. And the things that I have, I want them to be a little nicer again, right? And once I have those nice things, I've worked hard and I've gotten this nice thing the way that I want it to be. Now I want to keep it nice, you know? And it's a lesson that it's hard to learn, but I think once you start to get in that mindset, and I do see it happening more in society, storing and storage went from, hey, I just need a self-storage unit to store all my crap, to now I want a nice place to keep my stuff because I want to keep it nice.
Yeah.
I don't need it in this exact moment, but in 3 weeks, in 3 months, in 3 years, I want to come back and I want it to be as nice as it can be.
Yep.
Interesting thing. Like I said, I started to elaborate. We have a number of customers who we do their soft tops and hard tops. When 20 years ago, when we were swapping our hard tops out, my family, we just kept our hard top sitting outside on a pallet. And yeah, right. And it's like,
At least Amy's on cement,
I know a bunch of people,
but it is sitting outside.
certainly the JKJL group, they don't want to just keep their hard top.
As you should.
Not
do.
Not do.
Don't do it what I do.
And so as an industry, well, there's a lot of response going, how do we keep these tops nice for people?
Yes.
Because when you go to put it back on in the fall, you don't really want to be cleaning all the spider webs out and chasing the squirrels out of there.
Yeah.
And stuff that we used to just do with CJs and YJs and early of the TJs.
Yep.
Very interesting shift in our
how do you store your
consumer base.
doors? How do you store your
Years
your
ago,
other
we just took our
accessories?
doors off and we set them on the ground.
Couple weeks ago, there was a great chat in our Discord from the Patreons going on about how to do the door storage and
Yeah.
all the different creative options that came out of it.
Yeah,
Without question.
And like my wife, CJ, I completely restored it. I took doors off one spring, set them down, got moisture, didn't know about it, and I put it back on that fall. I had rust
Oh, yeah.
down in the pinch weld
Yes.
that I still have to fix now.
Yes.
And I had painted that. It's the only vehicle I've ever painted
Yes.
because it was for my wife. And here we have rust in the door now. That was a rust-free door when I started.
Right, because we stored it incorrectly.
Because I
I'm
stored it
with you,
incorrectly.
man. I'm with you.
Sucks.
And that's such a challenge. It's such a
Yeah.
challenge. This was a great conversation. I hope that if anybody has any input to it, obviously we always like people to jump into the comments. If you're listening to us while working or in your truck or commuting, we really value that that you have chosen us to be part of that experience with you. Know that you can always jump on Monday live at 10:19 on the Book of Faces. Jump into there, have a fun time hanging out in the comments, interacting with us. You can be one of the people that we're talking about and with, just as we do normally. Or you can obviously leave a comment on the YouTube when this video is posted. But you can always reach out to us via our text only number or emailing Jeffrey, and you can be part of this conversation. We appreciate that. You additionally have the opportunity to become one of our supporting Patreons. And we have a growing number of individuals who are critical in ensuring that this program continues to air weekly by, supporting us financially monthly. And we are so very thankful of that. With that said, when you pledge into Patreon, you get access to a unique chat room where we are actually hanging out on our private time, our social time.
Yep.
There's a lot of fun, interesting conversations from cheetah print to Crocs
with
to
socks.
door storage to camping trips.
And you get a little behind the scenes now and then of Scott's Metal Shop and
other
Neil's
little
house
shenanigans that we do.
shenanigans.
Yes. And so it's a really cool opportunity. It's a great, fun conversation piece. And so that's another way that you can get involved. And
Neil does love the croc pictures.
Uh-huh. No, sure. So, you know, you can
that was
get-
from Darla, by
Of
the way.
course it was. So there are ways for you to get involved, and we are so thankful for everyone that has already taken us up on that and has become involved. And with that, there are certain ways to get extra merchandise, specialty products, stickers, and obviously unique tokens of appreciation at different events that are just available for that level of support. So thank you folks who are doing that and getting involved, and you can be one of those people as well. Hopefully it will address what you are looking for storage. If you had any other questions on how or what you should be doing for storage, short or long term, we're here for it.
And
Totally.
Chip just said, pull the pin and walk away.
Yeah,
That's
you gotta
a-
get on Discord and know what that means.
Yep. That's
No doubt. We're going to take a moment. We're going to transition, and we'll be back to talk about #NotSponsored, a unique product that Jeffrey is super geeked up about.
Yes.
And now it's time for our product spotlight.
#NotSponsored.
Spotlight.
#NotSponsored.
All right, so it has nothing to do with storage. Not
No.
even
Not even
remotely.
Not even slightly.
We could blind the mice away.
We could blind them away.
So
It's more wiring for the mice to chew
That's
on.
true.
It
and
really
burn
is.
down your vehicle if SFJ doesn't install it.
That's true too.
So this was a customer actually brought this in for us to install, and I thought it was very valuable to actually review it because the brand is called Lux, Lux.
What is it, Jeffrey? We didn't even tell anybody yet.
So it is a rock light set, and they have the option of going all white, or you can do the RGB. The downside to the RGB in this is they're all wired individually, so you have to wire every wire. The pack that this customer bought is 8 lights, so you've got 4 wires per light at times 8 lights. You got to wire all that to a controller.
Yep.
The benefits is you can actually create several different colors with these LED lights using this RGB controller. The controller will actually combine different wires to make different colors. And then if you combine them all, you can get your true white. Now, the controller will do all that for you, so you can literally just go on Bluetooth and select the color you want.
Now it looks like we got a shielded, nice weather type wire.
It is. It's a very well constructed wire. The light itself is also protected with it's solid polymer cast body is what they're saying. The lighting comes with an IP68 rating, so that's pretty good right there. There's a high output to it. The one thing that I thought was really unique is that these lights, because of the waterproof rating, they completely encased it. The way they can get away with doing that is they put magnetic mounts on the back.
Right.
The positive sides is it's really simple to mount for most consumers.
Yep.
The downside, especially with the JLJT platform,
As aluminum.
everything's aluminum.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you run into an issue where it's not magnetic and you have to create mounts for it. They do sell a mounting tab that you could screw in. It's just a little flat plate of steel that you would screw in, and then this would sit right on top of. So that is an option. The other thing is when you're looking through their FAQs, they have a really fun thing that I read to Neil, and I said, this is going to be our product spotlight just because of this alone.
Right.
In their questionnaire, how bright are they? And everybody always wants to know, what's the lumens? Well, we know lumens isn't always the right
Yeah.
answer,
Especially with rock lights.
especially with
They're a
rock
different use.
Yep. So their response is, have you stared at the sun lately? We do not post lumens because it is an irrelevant measurement for rock lights. There is also no governing or competition to see if their specs are accurate. We will say that in a consumer test where the brands of lights were not given that lux, they were 9-to-1 in brightness and light coverage when mounted to a Jeep, even over competitors costing 4 times as much. And there's 100% money back satisfaction guaranteed backing it up. So
That's awesome.
I like the functionality of this company. I am interested to see how well these lights do work. We did do some bench testing with them a little bit just to see the brightness, and they do illuminate pretty well.
Yeah, and I think it's funny that rock lights in general are a very popular thing. They started in a very functional group of individuals
Yes.
who were legitimately wheeling and needed to, orient their vehicle so that they could see where they were going to place their tire.
Yep.
At the same time, anybody who grew up through the 80s and 90s totally have an appreciation for underglow
Yes.
and that
This is
beautiful
just a new
that
way.
yes, that beautiful neon light that used to be produced under the vehicle.
Yes.
This is just the new way to do that.
Yep.
The highly functional grouping and the underglow crowd, it's reasonably merged at this point. We like to accessorize. We like to have fun with our vehicles. I am all for it. The only thing I ask is that you do a clean, appropriate longitudinal installation.
Yeah.
People oftentimes, because they trivialize the rock lights as something that's not required, it's not safety, it's not functionality, it's whatever. They don't pay the time and attention for a quality installation.
Yep.
Equally, when people come in and I quote you that it's going to be 5 to 6.5 hours to install rock lights.
They lose their mind sometimes.
Some people who are not our regular customers, they're like, too expensive, not for me.
Yeah.
That's fine. You go do you. Our good customers know that the quality of our install, the weather pack tightness of our connections,
Yep.
the fact that we have literally had customers come in with wires that were installed elsewhere wrapped around their drive shaft
Yep.
Yeah.
or melted to their exhaust.
Yep. Or
That-
you try to put it on the lift and you're crushing wires because they inappropriately ran them.
Correct. So the fun thing about rock lights is they make people happy,
Yes.
and that's okay.
Yep.
And so the only thing when that bridges with a professional process like we have, we just want to make sure that they're going to make you happy for a very long time. Right.
Yes.
This company looks to be kind of interesting. There's no exact right answer. I can tell you that Rigid Lights make some of the best lights on the market, period. We've been using their rock lights for many, many years successfully. They just keep working and they work well.
Mm-hmm.
But the downside is that Rigid does not give you RGB.
Right.
They only do
A color.
single colors. So if you know what your color is, your accent color or what you would like to use, then awesome. But if you like the RGB, there's a handful of different manufacturers that we've dabbled with over the years with varying degrees of success. So it'll be interesting to try this piece. This is not one that we're actively selling, but a customer brought in. We were doing our homework prior to installation. Jeff found their Q&A. They were witty and direct and appropriate in their responses.
Yes.
And it's not a nameless, faceless Amazon store.
Yep.
So I think that it will be a worthwhile experience to try these out. You know?
I agree, and I'm excited to see. Like I said, the longevity is what I would like to see out of these.
No doubt.
And this is a good customer of ours who we will see that back here, and we'll
Yeah.
know if the lights are holding up or
And he
not.
did ask us before he even ordered them what we thought of it, and we, me and Greg are honest and said, well, we haven't dealt with this company before, but
Let's try it out.
let's
If,
try it
if
out.
you're sold on it, that's what you're the one making that decision, and we're going to do our best to respond accordingly.
Yep. And then the other important factor when we talk about the proper install too, not only not running it around drive shafts and to exhaust, but also when you're hooking it to the battery, making sure all your connections are appropriate and safe, so you're not
Yes.
creating car
and
fires
fused.
and fused properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that something? All right, folks, we have had a great story and conversation, story time, circle time, if you will, conversation on storing your vehicles. Today, obviously, a lot of good things. We will be at Mecum in a couple weeks, and then we'll actually be taking a week off immediately following Mecum for some, vacation time and personal stuff needing to be addressed. Had a really good.
But the car fire comment, was that a shot at Neil is what Chip's
No,
asking.
I mean,
It was not
I've
a shot
never-
at Neil.
If you're on Discord,
Chip is talking about, was that a shot? No, I've never actually burnt down a vehicle based on improper wiring.
No.
Hands down, 100%. Anything
No.
that I've done.
Thankfully, I got involved pretty early on.
Now
Stop
that was a
it.
shot
Now
at you.
that,
That
now
was a
that
shot.
was a shot at me. That was a shot at me. Folks, you know what? I'm going to leave it on that.
Wow.
Just know that I was wiring vehicles long before Scott got his influence into. Now, that's not to say that I have not benefited from him and Greg over the years. Wholly, I have, and I'm here to admit that. But I was successfully not burning vehicles down in my teenage years as well.
Yep.
This was a good one. We don't want you to burn your vehicle down in storage. So hope that some of our tips and tricks will benefit you. Don't park it on the grass, folks, and pay attention to the last time you drove it. How did you leave that vehicle? Is it going to store the best that it can store
Yes.
for the short and long-term possibilities? I hope that you enjoyed this. You can get involved with us by emailing Jeffrey directly at JEFFC at SFJ4x4.com or hitting us up on our text-only number 440-855-2100. And we'll do this again next week. Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.